Hello everybody and welcome to today's VATSIM 101 video where we're going to be going over how to read METARs and ATIS reports. If you're not familiar with what a METAR or an ATIS report is, they're both observations about the airports that you're operating out of, and you're going to need to know this information when you call up air traffic control. We're going to talk about the differences between the two and how to read the way that they're formatted. Now, the differences between a METAR and the ATIS is the type of information that they're going to give you. For the METAR, which is short for Meteorological Aerodrome Report, is a basic weather observation for the airport. One is the Automated Surface Observation System, which is the ASOS. The other is the Automated Weather Observation System. They're both going to give you the same basic weather information. There's a slight difference with some of the information that it can give you, but the METARs are going to be formatted in the exact same way. They're going to give you the same basic information that you're going to need to know. The METARs are also updated a lot more frequently than the ATISes. So first, let's start with a METAR format. So this is it right up at the top of the screen. If you've never seen something like this before, you're going to see it's in a weird sort of format. We're going to break it all down right now. So at the very beginning, we have the identifier for the airport that the weather observation is for. The observation is for PADQ, which is Kodiak Airport in Alaska. Next is the date and time in Zulu that this was updated. Now, if you're not familiar with what Zulu time is, you probably know it better as Greenwich Mean Time. It's a time zone that's based in Greenwich, England, that all of the time zones across the world are coordinated to. This is the standard time zone that we use in aviation. So the first two numbers are going to be the date of the month, and the last four are going to be the time. So this was updated on the 31st of the current month at 20:53 Zulu. Next is our wind information. So we have our wind direction and speed. The first three numbers are the wind direction, and the rest of that is going to be the speed, and the KT means that the speed is reported in knots. So the wind direction is 200, and the speed is 10 knots, gusting to 23 knots. So your wind direction is broken down into a numerical format. It's going to help you figure out what runway you're going to use, because your runways are numbered based on the direction that they face. Now, if you were to think of the wind direction in compass headings, north is 360, south is 180, east is 90, and west is 270. So the winds in this example are coming sort of from the southwest, and then the speed is 10 knots, gusting to 23 knots. So that means that the sustained wind is 10 knots, and it is gusting up to 23 knots. So it's a little windy at Kodiak Airport. 10 SM is our visibility. The SM means it's in statute miles. There's a couple of different ways that you can get a visibility report. Depending on country, it can be in statute miles, it can be in meters, it can be in kilometers. That's how far ahead of you that you are able to see. At Kodiak, we can see 10 statute miles ahead of us. Next is our cloud coverage. So we have few clouds at 4,300 feet. So there's four different types of cloud layers that you could see: few, scattered, broken, and overcast. Sometimes you may get something that says a ceiling at a certain height. So a ceiling is defined by either a broken or an overcast layer. The number is the cloud height above ground level in hundreds of feet. Very important, your cloud heights are always going to be reported above ground level. They are not going to be reported above sea level. Next is our outside air temperature and dew point. So our outside temperature is 5 degrees Celsius, and our dew point is minus 3 degrees Celsius. So when you see the M in front of the number there, that means that the temperature is below zero. Your temperature and dew point are always going to be reported in degrees Celsius. The last thing we see is A2966. That is our altimeter setting, or the barometric pressure for the airport. So that's going to be 29.66 inches of mercury. There's two different ways that you can get an altimeter setting. One is in inches of mercury, the other is in hectopascals. The easiest way to tell which one they're using, if the altimeter setting starts with a 2 or a 3, it's in inches of mercury. If it starts with a 1 or a 9, it's in hectopascals or millibars. Some people call it millibars. Now here we have the ATIS. So as you can see already, this is a little bit more involved than what the METAR has. You probably already see about a quarter of the way through it that there is a METAR that is embedded in the ATIS report. So just starting at the very beginning, this is the ATIS for Albany Airport in New York. Now, right after that, we see arrival and departure. That means that this ATIS applies to both arriving and departing aircraft. Some airports have a different ATIS for arrivals than they do departures. So if you are flying at one of those airports that does, make sure you're looking at the correct one, and it will specify whether it is the arrival or departure ATIS. Next, we see information Sierra. When the ATISes are updated, by the air traffic controllers, they're going to attach a letter to it so it's easy for them to tell whether or not you have the most up-to-date information. So the way the ATIS works is that it starts at A and it goes all the way down the alphabet to Z, and then once they get to Z, they just go right back up to A. But every time the ATIS is updated, that letter is going to change. So in this case, information Sierra is current. If another hour goes by and information Tango comes current, and we call up air traffic control and say we have information Sierra, they're going to know that we don't have the most up-to-date information, and they're going to tell us to go get it. So it's just a very easy way for them to determine whether or not we have the right information. Right after we have 2151Z, that is the time that this was updated, 2151 Zulu. Next, we have our METAR report. Winds are 300 at 14 gusting to 19 knots. Visibility is 10 statute miles. We have few clouds at 4,500 feet. Few clouds again at 24,000 feet. Temperature is 12 degrees Celsius. Dew point is -2 degrees Celsius. The altimeter setting is 29.92 inches of mercury. Next is really what makes the ATIS unique from the METAR. So we're going to go into all of the specific procedure that is going on at Albany Airport right now. RNAV runway 28 approach in use. That means that they are landing on runway 28 and they're using the RNAV system to do it. So if you're flying IFR into Albany, you can expect for air traffic control to give you the RNAV 28 approach. NOTAMs, which is notice to air missions, that means that there is either something not standard happening at the airport, or there's some information that the controllers want to emphasize. Taxiway Mike is closed. Taxiway Bravo is closed. We have two taxiways that are not being used. ILS runway 01 out of service. So OTS is an acronym for out of service. I don't know how OTS is an acronym for out of service, but that's what they use. ILS runway 19 out of service. Crane down. That one's a little bit weird. I guess that means there's a crane down on the runway or something. I don't know. Either way, we're not using that runway. Class Charlie frequency is 132.82. So when you get into the Class Charlie airspace, that is the frequency that you are going to be contacting the controllers on, and advise you have information Sierra. That means that when we call up air traffic control, we are going to tell them that we have information Sierra. That way they know this is the current information that we're operating under, and if we don't have the most up-to-date one, the controllers will easily be able to identify it. And that'll wrap up today's video, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And until next time, everybody, this is Cross Hyperu, signing out.